Welcome to the Think Fitness Life podcast, where we bring the mind, body, and gym together so you can improve your health, increase performance, and live your best life. For more information, visit thinkfitnesslife.com. Here are your hosts, Matt Gluckman and Eric Menchie.
Welcome back to the Think Fitness Life podcast, Mindset, Exercise, Nutrition with your hosts, Matt Gluckman and Eric Menchie. And this week we have the pleasure of interviewing a very special guest. He is a man who has won over 250 bodybuilding titles. He was 7-time all-natural Mr. Olympia, 7-time all-natural Mr. Universe, 7-time natural world champion. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame for International Natural Bodybuilding. He is a master trainer for the Army, developer of the Iron Chest Master device. He's an author, a preacher, and a coach that has been changing lives for over 30 years, and we're honored to have Ron Williams on the show. Welcome, Ron.
Thank you guys so much. I'm glad to be with you guys today, man.
We're excited too. So I want to just dive right in. Where did your interest for fitness first begin? Tell me a little bit of a background story.
Man. Fitness has been a part of my life since I can remember. I remember running track in the 7th grade, and that was really, really impactful for me. And it really started me on a path that I've never veered away from. So it's been a part of my life since 7th grade that I can remember.
What were you running in track? Was it short?
Oh my God! It was definitely short distance. I'm made for the 100 and the 200, but I've ran the 400, and I've done some pole vaulting and some crazy stuff, man.
All right.
I like it.
So it began on the track,
Yeah.
almost. And then how long? So that was probably the staple for you, kind of on your own fitness journey in life and everything. But then, when did it transition over to, you know what, I'm loving this so much, I'm going to try to implement this on other people's lives and change people's situations?
Well, there's a lot that happened in between, but that happened when I was probably 29 years old, when I started really focusing and helping other people. But one thing I learned when I ran track, I talked about it in 7th grade, that America loves winners. And I had to be that guy. I had a really, really hard upbringing, man, where I was abandoned at 3 years old. And, my mother and father left me, and I was dropped off at a babysitter's house. The babysitter didn't want me. I was molested as a child, and a lot of negative things happened. I was suicidal for a lot of years, and I started running, doing sports. And I remember my first track meet. I took 2nd place. And there was a guy on my left side that won, and the guy on my right side, he took 3rd place. And the news reporters came in for the school, and they asked me, they said, "How did you do?" I said, "I did great." And they said, "What place did you get?" I said, "I took 2nd." And they said, "Who won?" And I told them who won, and they left me and went to the guy that won. So I looked at the guy on my right side who had the family. His family was over there encouraging him, and I stood there alone. And I looked to my left side where the guy who won was, and the reporters were there. I knew I could never be the guy on the right side. I could never have a family. My family had abandoned me. But I could be the guy on the left side if I could just win. So pain became a friend to me at that point. It became my friend, and I could actually handle more pain than the next person. That meant I could win. So I started my journey becoming addicted to winning. That's where I started. And then at 28 years old, there was a transition where I began to look at life different and wanted to reach out and help other people.
Yeah, so like from 7th grade to 28, you were just like the sword, casting yourself into the fire and hitting yourself with that hammer and just recasting yourself into the fire and just like hardening yourself and making
Oh
yourself that
man,
winner and putting yourself probably through all sorts of hell because like you said, pain was your friend. Like it almost was empowering to just eat up any challenge in front of you. I can imagine that's kind of what your mentality was. Is that
absolutely the
correct?
truth, man. Because the pain, the emotional pain that I suffered was much greater than any physical pain that I could ever experience. And I realized if I could manage the pain, it would only last a short period of time, a set, a race. But the emotional pain was something that was there all the time. I had no control over. But the physical pain I could control. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what I began to master the physical pain,
Mm-hmm.
man, and made it a friend. I began to embrace it, and I could win races that I was never meant to win because I can manage the pain better.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's really fascinating. I love that because there's something about having that mentality of just chewing up challenges to making yourself better and hardening yourself. So, kind of coming back to transforming other people's lives, you've been in the industry for 30 years. So, I'm curious from your perspective, what are some of the highlighted major shifts and trends that you've seen bounce back and forth in this industry?
Well, a lot that I've seen is in the industry. It seems like we're now listening and grasping for bites of information when our minds and our brains are not really made that way. At one time when you studied out a subject, you had to go to the library. You guys are young, so you probably don't remember this. You had to go to the library.
I used to go check out books in
Okay,
the
okay.
library.
You had to
Yeah.
go to the library. You had to open the books. You had to study the whole subject, and you had some background and some real foundation of what you were studying. Now everybody's an expert because we have Google, and you can just Google and get bites of information that there's really no basis and no foundation to it. It's just what somebody said, and because it's written, it's true. And so with these bites of information, sometimes we don't get the whole concept. And so that's one of the trends that I've
Hmm.
seen where there's a dichotomy, where there's a disconnect with getting complete information.
Hmm.
Even with some of the
Hmm.
exercise.
Yeah, like people are okay with just a surface
That's
level
right.
understanding.
Yeah. And some of those things can be very dangerous. And then with the exercises, I travel around the country and I see these new exercises that are really not exercises, they're danger sizes. Now this sounds true. I actually
Yeah,
saw a
right.
guy in the gym training a lady, had her standing on a ball with a bar on her back doing squats on this ball, trying to balance herself. And he said, "This is good, really, really good for all the connective tissue, and it's really good for the supporting muscles." I was like, "Oh my God, are you kidding me? You're gonna hurt that lady?" And then I've seen things where they're jumping up and
Yeah,
down on
yeah.
boxes, and I mean, it's great. But my question is, every exercise, why are you doing it? Is there a better way to accomplish your end result? Your goal. But
Yes,
he's got this lady who's overweight and obese trying to
yes.
lose weight. She's stepping up and down on this box, and she shouldn't be doing it. But one thing, she needs to be decreasing body fat. And she said, "I'm tired. I'm tired." "No, no, you got it. No pain, no gain." And all of a sudden, she misses the step, and her shin scrapes the box and scrapes all the skin off her shin. I mean, I was waiting for it to happen. I was like, "Please stop that. Please stop." And then it happened. So I see these new exercises or danger
Yeah.
sizes that they're doing to try to come up with something new to say that I'm creative and inventive. Some of the exercises are just what they are. There's no better way to do it. If it's not broke, don't fix it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. No, and then there's just foundational exercises in this field that are mimicking our primal movements. You just can't, you're not trying to recreate the wheel here. You're just trying to do the little details and the foundational pieces better than anyone else. But I know exactly what you mean, because I even feel like I fell into that category when I was a young trainer. Like, oh, I got to have something new. I got to have something. Everything's got to be different every time a new client comes in the next workout. And that's not the case, because you're not even going to get results that way. If you just do the workout of the day every day, what are you actually getting better at? What are you setting your intentions to become stronger and grow from? So I love your training philosophy, and I love your term danger sizes. So then I got to ask you, when did you start seeing the shift from coaching people physically and tying it into like their spirituality or their emotional well-being or their psychological
Man,
well-being?
that is a great question, man, because this was a real important shift for my life. And when that took place was I started seeing people that were overweight and obese, and I would train them, some to the point where they would actually compete in different areas, whether it was triathlon, bodybuilding, or whatever it was. And they looked at me as their coach and as their hero because I helped them get in this shape. I looked at them almost as a trophy and a billboard because I could say, look at the work that I do, you know? And so we had really good relationships, but I would watch them look down on other people because all they had was this outward appearance, their physical bodies, but they really didn't have a lot of substance inside. And so I called it creating monsters. They didn't treat other people very well because they thought they were better because of their physical appearance. And that has everything to do with the person. Mm-hmm. So what I decided one day was I was never going to train, and this is what I said. I said, I'll never train another monster. And what I meant by that is I would never train another person that if they wouldn't allow me access to the whole person, body, soul, and spirit, that I wouldn't spend the time creating something or this person that was just surface. But I wanted my physical body, I want my physical appearance to only be a reflection of what's inside. Personally, I never wanted to be that guy who had a great body but was empty inside, and that was not a nice person. So I didn't want to help anybody else be that person that I didn't want to be. So I was probably 28, 29 years old when this thought process started in my head, but it really didn't hit its peak until I was about 35. And at 35, I made a clean cut. I said, I'll never do it. And all of my programs that I put together had to do with four things: faith, family, fitness, and finances. Those four things in that order: faith first, then family, then fitness, then finances. Because if I have everything in the world and I have no one to share it with, I've been there. And that's not a happy place to be. Without having faith, I was empty inside. And then after, I've seen so many people reach the top and they're there alone, and then I've watched people get in shape and then lose it. They lose 100 pounds and then put on 110. I mean, that's sad. So I put those four F's together, and that's what I wanted to accomplish for me, and that's what I want to transfer as much as I can to other people.
Yeah. So with the faith, is that kind of where you see people going, what they first need? Like, I know people want to come in and get in shape, but do you kind of find people need like a firm belief in something, a firm faith in themselves or anything before they can really start that journey to the other F's?
I think they can start the journey, but I don't think they can maintain the journey because me personally, I had this deep need for faith and I tried to find it in other areas. I tried to build my body. What most people didn't understand, when I first started building my body, I was this little boy inside that was hurt, that was damaged, and I was trying to build this armor around myself to protect myself from being hurt anymore. If I can build this big, strong body, people won't hurt me. They will be intimidated by me, and they won't approach me with any type of pain. But I wanted to accomplish the Mr. Universe competition because I thought that would be fulfilling. But there was an empty hole inside of me that only faith could fulfill. My faith in God could only fulfill. And I was trying to fill this hole with so many different things. I thought maybe if I got the prettiest girl, that would do it. Maybe if I got the nicest car, that would make me better. But I kept trying to fill this hole. And I found out the only thing that could really fit that hole properly was my relationship with God.
Did you have a defining moment or moments? I think a lot of people have them where they really have this one thing that really draws them in, and they hold on to it, and then they blossom. What was? Did you
Man,
have
that
one?
is an awesome question. That's an awesome question. What happened to me? It was a life or death situation. I always believed in God, but I hated God. Because what kind of God? This was my thought process. What kind of God would allow this little innocent child to be abused, to be given? Why'd you give me parents that didn't love me and gave me away? Why was I molested as a kid? Why was I beaten as a kid? Why was I verbally abused? Why was I on the streets by the time I was 15? Why did all these negative things happen to me? Yes, there's a God, but he hates me, so I hate him too. So that's the way I started. I hated God, and it was me against God and me against the world. But there was a life or death situation that took place, and I knew I was a walking dead man. And for the first time I prayed, I called on God. I said, God, if you are really real, like all these Christian people are telling me about, don't let me die like this. And God spoke to me for the first time. I was 28 years old, and my whole world changed. I had some friends come to me and say, we would talk about the girls when they came in the gym. And all of a sudden, I'm different, man. I don't talk about the girls the way I used to. We would look at the girls and say, oh, that one is cute. Oh, that one is cute. Oh, I want that one. And, we go on like guys do. And when they started that, I walked away. 3 days in a row, I walked away. And finally, they say, man, why are you walking away? And I said, man, I can't talk like that anymore. I'm saved. And they said, saved? Saved from what? I said, I believe in God now. I'm serving God now. And they said, oh, he's going through a fad. He'll get over it. Well, I haven't got over it yet. I'm still doing it. I'm still going through that fad they were talking about. And that's how it happened for me.
Someone famous said, it's not all about muscles and a six pack. You got to have a good soul and a good heart to go with it. And, I think it's almost understated the impact people like you can have on the world in terms of making that positive energy, not only being that positive energy, but helping other people make and become that beacon for themselves and the people around them too. And back to also your 4 F's, because I find personally, it's like fitness is the foot in the door that allows me to then get into those deeper conversations. So it's like that first time they're coming in, they're like, I just want to get bigger arms, or I just want to lose a little bit of weight. And like, okay, like let's do that. Let's make that happen. Let's get into a couple of exercises. And all of a sudden, after the warm up and after the first exercise, they're like, oh, I'm just so stressed out about X, Y, Z. And it's like, okay. And it's like layers of onions I got to kind of break into. And for me, I feel like it takes me about a month or two of working with someone before we even get into that healthy dynamic of like, this is what I want to adjust to. I want to fix your perspective, your mindset, your beliefs, your discipline, your self-confidence, grow you the inside out. So I'm curious, how do you approach that topic? Is it like right from day one? Or
it depends on the individual. It depends on the program. We have several programs that we have out, and some of the programs we have are natural programs. When I work with the person individually, they know where I stand. And one thing that happens every single time, they begin to trust me with their body, and that's their most prized gift that they have, and they begin to trust me with that. And if I'm effective at helping them reach their goals with their physical body, they tend to entrust other things to me too. Like you said, it's personal training. It's very personal. when they let you train their body, they'll open up in other areas of their life. This is what's happening with my wife. This is what's happening with my husband or my children. And they open that door for me to have an opportunity. And I'm constantly praying for these people. And one thing that I see now that is so evident, man, I mean, it really is profound. Our bodies are constantly telling a story. You know, when I look at a person's body, if they're overweight and obese, their body is really telling a story. If they're really fit and they're an athlete, as soon as you look at that person, you automatically start reading a story. You may not read it correctly, but you start to read, you know, that person is fit, that person is this, that person is this. Now, why are they that way? If a person is overweight and obese, likely there's some hurt, there's some damage, there's something that's wrong. It's not always that they're not disciplined, that they don't exercise, because I know some people that are very disciplined and that exercise that are overweight and obese. There are 75 reasons why people carry excess body fat, and we have to find out which one belongs to them. So what I do in what I train is I troubleshoot to find out why they're in the condition they're in. And then instead of dealing with the surface, I go to the root. Because with a dandelion, if you cut the flower down, it doesn't matter, it's going to keep coming back. But if you dig down to the root, destroy the root, the flower goes away. So I never deal with what it appears to be. I try to find out why it's there. That's with any problem. I try to find out what is the root of that problem. If I can destroy the root, I can get rid of the symptoms. So that's one of the things that we do in helping people find out who they are, because I believe everybody was born with a purpose and everybody has a brilliance about them. We just have to find it.
100%. Especially with the purpose. I think a lot of times, maybe nowadays, especially with social media and everything, I think a lot of people are losing their purpose in life. And that's why I really like when it comes back to your 4Fs. Your first one is faith. Now everyone is a little bit different. You know, Matt and I have different beliefs, but it's still, we have a belief in something. So that faith. So I think, do you find a lot of people going through your programs and working with you, like, are able to find their purpose and potential in life and kind of find new things they want to do with their lives?
I find that often, very, very often. And I have people text me, email me, write me, call me saying, Ron, thank you so much. I mean, I don't get a chance to work, man. I enjoy what I do so much that I never have to work. I love what I do, and I feel guilty sometimes. I get paid so much for what I do because it's fun. I get paid to have fun and to change people's lives, man. I just love it. I mean, I started off this kid, 3 years old, who was mistreated and abused, and then I grow into this, man. This is the life right here. I'm telling you. Even during the pandemic.
So did you transfer from, like?
Go ahead.
Well, I think even during this pandemic, a lot of people are still finding out who they are, even at a deeper level, because you've had time to sit alone, you've had time to be with family, or just think about life in a different aspect. So I think it's very important, and I think it's a very good big lesson to learn from people. Like, okay, how can we survive this? How are we different as humans coming out of this? And is that your transition? Not now, but like from fitness coach to more now. I was reading your, don't get this wrong, preacher. Is that kind of what kind of drew you to that?
Well, one thing, I didn't want to be a pastor, man. I really didn't. I mean, I had no desire, and I told God I would never be a pastor. But I went on a 40-day water fast. And, for spiritual reasons, I just wanted to be better, man. I was so messed up. The Bible says some kind cometh out only by fasting and prayer. So I said, hey, I'm going to go on a fast then. So I started fasting and praying, and I was talking to God one day, and I said, he showed me a vision where people were dying. And because they didn't have the spiritual awareness that they were really dying. And I said, God, don't let the sheep die. And the next day, he said to me, you said, don't let the sheep die. They need a pastor. You're it. I'm like, wow, I didn't want to do that. I don't know anything. He said, the only thing that is required is for you to love the people. If you love the people, you'll find out what they need and you'll give it to them. So that's when I started pastoring soon after that. And what they needed, and
I get a different
and you
plan
know
for
what?
you.
Even with bodybuilding, I had pastors tell me you can't bodybuild anymore because you're a Christian now, and you can't be tempting people going on stage with those little shorts on, and so I retired from bodybuilding. And after a while, the Lord spoke to me again and said, "You're not the same type of preacher. You're going to reach a different demographic that a tie and a suit will never reach."
For sure.
And so that freed me to continue to compete and to continue to reach the people that I'm capable of reaching.
And be the unique figure that you are, like you said, kind of hitting that unique population base and tying the worlds together for people who also found comfort and love in the gym because of whatever reason in their life they didn't have it, but then helping them connect the dots of like, listen, this is what you were searching for and you found it in the gym, but it's short-lived. And what you really need to do is tie that back to your faith and your beliefs. And I imagine it's probably a common misinterpretation or misunderstanding that you only can work with people who believe in the Christian faith. I imagine, correct me if I'm wrong, but you can work with anyone of any background or religion or belief because it's about the whole faith aspect and the spirituality behind it. Is that pretty accurate?
No, that's absolutely not accurate. You have to be a Christian. No, I'm kidding.
You got you going,
man.
Matt.
If you could only.
I knew he'd be pulling my leg. I knew it. I knew when he first said that. I was like, he's pulling my leg.
No, my.
And even more speaks to your uniqueness of a pastor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm growing up at a young age, and my dad was Jewish, my mom was Catholic, and it was like you go to the church or you go to the temple, and the people at the church and the temple were like, you got to come here. This is what it's about. And they weren't trying to develop me as the individual and how I connected to the world. You know what I mean? It was about like a monotheological way of beating their drum. So that's what I'm just kind of highlighting your uniqueness that you bring.
Well, one thing is this is the truth. I believe in Jesus Christ. I believe that he's the way, the truth, and the life. But even Jesus himself won't force himself on anybody else. He allows you to believe whatever you want to believe. And so I can't be any different, So I allow people to believe what they want to believe, but I believe a certain way and I stick to that and I hold on to that. But it's up to you to believe the way you want to believe. The important thing here is that that regardless of what you believe, Ron Williams still loves you. I love you no matter what. You can be gay, you can be transgender, you can be anything you want to be. I mean, but I still love you. You can be black, white, green, blue. I don't care. You could be Obama, you could be President Trump, you could be Biden. I love them all. That's my job, is to love. I mean, that's part of who I am. At one time, I didn't love people. Now I love every human being alive. Man, and that is remarkable to be able to say that. I love everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I love Zen Buddhism a lot, like Ram Dass and all of them. And to me, like you're like a incarnation of Ram Dass. Like you're just a similar person, being of just able to love anyone of any walk of life. And back to Jesus for a second. Like if he was around today, he's not going to be in the highest room of the highest castle, eating the best food and of gold plates and things like that. He's probably out hanging with the homeless people, trying to uplift them and empower them. So like more to your point about accepting anyone in any walk of life and any personal belief they want to carry, as long as you can get them tied into their spirit, tied into their purpose. And
I want to tell you something, my friend. You said if he was around today, he is around today. I talked to him this morning.
Touche. I mean, if he was walking on this earth as a human being, but touche, my friend. Touche.
Yeah, I thought I would poke you with that one.
So, no, I appreciate it. Yeah. And what's funny is I didn't realize you were also Utah. I'm in Salt Lake as well. I'm actually I live in Layton right now, so I'm recording out of Layton, and I work at a gym in Holiday,
Oh,
Excel
wow.
Fitness. And so your facility you're in Salt
Yes.
Lake, right?
I had no idea. You know what? I used to work out at
Yeah.
Excel. I forgot the two guys that started Excel. What were their names? I used to train one of their wives.
I don't know because there's been two owners since then, and the current owner was the previous manager to when there was one of
Okay,
the older
okay.
owners. So I'm not sure what the first owner was. I don't know his name, but my manager is Mike
No,
Rosas. I
I
don't know if you
don't.
know
But
that
man,
name.
yeah, Excel, it goes back about,
Okay.
wow, 20, 25 years. It's been around 25 years. Yeah, that is so
Yeah, yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
Small world. To your point, man, he is here because he's connecting us in a little bit.
Nope.
I got some stuff I need to learn from you, I can tell.
Wow, that is so cool, man. And since you are here, we've got to meet in person. Yeah. Yes,
I
sir.
agree. I agree. So where's your
My
facility?
facility, this facility you see right here, this is my home.
I'm
Oh,
jealous.
jeez.
Yeah, that's my
All
home.
right.
It's got all the toys.
Some of them, some of what you see, I've
Nice.
created myself. Yeah,
Really?
yeah.
Hmm.
That's one of the things I did.
Are you in? Are you in like Sandy, or are you
Draper,
in Park City,
Draper.
or where are you?
Yeah,
Draper. Okay. All right. Nice. Yeah, you're a stone's throw away
that's right.
from
Yeah,
Excel
pretty
for
close.
sure. I'm gonna come
Please
bother you
do.
for
You're
sure.
more than welcome, man.
Get a bicep
Now,
session in.
now, where are you from? Yes,
Who, me?
Eric.
Eric. Yeah.
Oh, I'm in
Oh
Boston.
man,
I'm on the
yeah.
East
You gonna? It's
Coast.
gonna take you.
So we met at Equinox in Boston, and that's actually where our third member of our whole company is from. We all worked at the same gym
Mhm.
together, and then we all kind of separated. He stayed in Boston, Justin went to Tampa, Florida, and I came out to Utah. And man, it's been about a year and a half, 2 years. I've been telling this dude, you need to come out to Utah. I keep telling him,
He's
this
trying to
is
get me
God's
out there.
country out here. The earth and everything's out here. You get just such a variety of different options to if you want to go to the desert, you can go to the desert. If you want to go in the mountains, you can go in the mountains. If you want to find the lake, you can find the lake. It's just
Yeah,
it's beautiful out here. And
I'm
where are you
originally
from
from
originally?
Indianapolis, Indiana. Yeah,
Okay,
and I wanted to
okay.
retire at 18.
And you were
Yeah,
training out there.
that's where I started my training in Indiana. Then I spent some time in the military.
Okay.
That's where I started bodybuilding in the military in Germany. And then I went back to Indiana, and the way I got to Utah, man, it was a trick. God played a trick on me. I wanted to retire at 18 on a tropical island, and I end up in the high desert on the mountain, man. I mean, in Salt Lake City, Utah. Yeah, yeah,
Polar
yeah.
opposite.
But I love it here. I love it.
So I got to ask you, with with COVID and everything, have you transitioned to also coaching
Well,
online
what
as
happened with
well?
COVID? One of the things I always say is you can never defy a season. And when a season comes, you have to be able to shift with that season. And COVID brought about a season, man. If it's summertime and you say, I hate winter, and when winter comes, you keep your summer clothes on, you keep your swimsuit on, you go jump in the Salt Lake, that season will kill you. So if a season changes, you got to shift and change with it. And COVID was a season. So with the business, there are some things that had to change and shift. Our online business exploded because nobody could go outside, everybody went online. Our
Mm.
exercise equipment business exploded because everybody is doing in-home exercises. So with that change, what we had to do is we had to learn how to be better at marketing online. So instead of me getting better, the dinosaur that I am, I hired really good people to start doing the promotion and the marketing for me. And so we've grown tremendously because of it.
But it sounds like you were already in a place to, like, you had kind of already diversified your impact in different avenues so that when the shift happened, you didn't really have to like scrap something and start building
Absolutely.
something new. You just made a little
That's
bit
right.
of a
Absolutely.
pivot.
You're so right. But one thing we do is we do one-on-one coaching across the country where I travel out to where my clients live for the first 3 or 4 days and get them started, get them a foundation. I come back home and I work with them online and by texting. They text me every meal that they eat. Every morning they get up, they jump on the scale, take a picture of it, send it over to me. And I consult them by webinars and by phone calls, and then they come out to me halfway through their 12-week program. And then finally, I go out to them for their graduation. And then we have retreats and workshops that we do. And we're starting up with our new personal training certification where they can come and get certified and do the same thing we do. But we set up certification for churches and corporations so that there's one liaison between me and that corporation or that church that actually speaks my voice and leads classes and different stuff like that.
That's fascinating. I love that, because that's seriously like, we've been kind of building this from the ground up, just kind of started off just having so many good conversations in the gym that we said, hey, why don't we start recording this stuff? And, if you record it, they will listen type of deal. If you write it, they will read it. And, it's progressed to, like doing some online stuff. And we were saying like the next step we wanted to take was like start having retreats and things like that. So I aspire to be in your shoes one day, or at least maybe in a flip flop of yours.
Yeah. Well,
because that's really
I tell
amazing
you what,
stuff,
with the
man.
retreat, especially here in Utah, if you have a retreat in the summertime up where the ski lodges are, man, the rooms are really inexpensive because nobody's purchasing rooms for skiing because there's no snow. So, really, really inexpensive. They cater
Yeah.
it, and you've got that solitude there, and you've got the mountains. I mean, it's a beautiful place to hold retreats, man. The next thing we want to do is cruises. We want to take people on cruises.
All right, sign me up. No, because I find that the hardest thing is getting through to somebody. Like you can write them the best workout program. You can walk them through how to do every single thing. They don't lack the strength, they don't lack the discipline, they don't lack the nutrition knowledge, whatever, but they lack that consistency piece. And there's something that, like you said, kind of you're building that house without a foundation, and all of a sudden it just comes crumbling down. And we tried to figure out so many different models and ways that we can, because you eventually get to a point where your schedule's maxed out training people one-on-one in person
right.
in the gym, so how could we maximize our effect but also still be there for someone and hold their hand through the process so that they don't come falling tumbling down the hill and have to start back from day one again. So it just seems like you're implementing that in such a big way in so many different avenues. Like, what are some of your tips there of how to be that impactful person, and how to be that, I don't know, you're almost like that drill bit that just gets right into that little piece of their soul or their heart or their spirit so fine tuned and so well.
One
How
thing
do
that
you
I
do
would
that?
say, man, is accountability, accountability, accountability. Never leave that person to themselves. Like some of the clients that I've had, they've been on the brink of being successful without me. But and what I mean by that is right when they hit a sticking point, they have no voice in their head, nobody to hold their hand to say, just go 2 more days, don't give up now. Because when they hit that sticking point and maybe the weight stops falling off, they say, well, I'm going to try this. I'm going to try that. I'm going to try this. It still doesn't work. So they quit. And then 2 months later, they start over again. But if they had a voice in their head to keep them going, if they had somebody that had a little bit of knowledge or been through what they're going through, to encourage them to keep going. So what I try to do is build community, a Facebook page where they can talk to people that are like-minded, that are doing the same thing they're doing. And also they have this coach in their head, myself, that's giving them instruction, letting them know before it happened. This is not going to be the easiest thing in the world to do, but it's pretty simple. When you hit that sticking point, we're not going to quit. Oh, but I'm losing weight. Everything's going well. No, the sticking point is coming. And when it comes, I want you to be prepared for it. And when it hits, I'm saying, this is what I was telling you about. This is how we work through it. And sometimes I want you to know something, man. Some of the sticking points are sabotage. There's sabotage tendencies within the person. Each layer sometimes represents, see, especially when it comes to body fat, when you're getting rid of body fat, fat is given to us for self-preservation. Fat is given to us for self-preservation in the fact that when you eat something that's toxic, the body fat absorbs it so it doesn't attack the internal organs. Fat is given to us to keep us warm. Fat is it actually has 9 calories instead of protein and carbohydrates with 4 calories. So it's a longer sustaining energy. So if you don't have anything to eat, the fat will sustain you for a long time. So it's made for protection. So when you have a lot of extra body fat, it's to protect you. Now, some of the fat that we have comes from emotion. Wow. When you are stressed, your body releases cortisol, which attacks the muscle tissue, and it converts that into, by way of glycogen, converts it into excess body fat. It spikes the blood glucose level, which causes the pancreas to secrete the insulin, and those extra glucose molecules are converted into triglycerides and pumped into the fat cell. So if you have a stressful situation in your life, say for instance, you've been raped and you've never dealt with that rape, you've got a certain amount of cortisol that's being released and released and released because of that stressful issue that never was dealt with. So your body has a right to hold on to a certain amount of body fat until you deal with that issue and the cortisol stops being released because of that. And normally you start to see that type of body fat after the age of 23 to 25, because that's when our bodies normally slow down and we stop releasing as much growth hormone at the age of 23. So we start to see that fat pick up around our midsection and around our bellies, and then it, from there throughout the rest of our bodies. So if we can find out what's creating that extra body fat, we can get rid of it. Sometimes, like I said, it's emotion, and we put on these layers of body fat. I had this problem because I had a lot of issues that went undealt with. And when I started dealing with those issues, I could get really lean, but I couldn't get ripped. And when I began to deal with some of those issues, the body fat that I couldn't get rid of, you could see the graininess of the muscle because those issues and those layers were taken off. So when I'm dealing with other people, I'm looking for those layers. First thing I start asking them, what type of relationship do you have with your parents? What type of relationship do you have with your siblings? Is there even any sibling rivalry? And start dealing with those issues. And sometimes, the thing
I
with the
love it.
sibling rivalry is you love that
Yeah.
sibling, but why do you argue the way you do? Every time you get together, there's always something. Sometimes there's a sibling rivalry, and we work through those things. Just because you love somebody doesn't mean you don't have an issue. And we overlook the issues a lot of times. But once you find out what the issue is, you deal with the issue, put that issue behind you, that cortisol release can no longer affect your body anymore. And so there's some people I've dealt with hundreds. I'm going to tell you this, and then I'm going to listen to you for a minute. But I had a girl tell me, she said, to be overweight is to be overlooked. And I said, what? I said, I don't know what you're saying right now, but whatever it is, it's very profound. Say it one more time. To be overweight is to be overlooked. And I said, explain that to me. She says, as long as I'm overweight, I'm not attractive and I don't get raped anymore. But as long as I'm beautiful and I have a nice slim waist and a beautiful body, I've been raped 4 times in my life. But I'm carrying this extra weight. I don't want to carry the extra weight. But if I don't have this extra weight, it seems like I get raped. So I had to help her realize that she could lose the weight and not have to be subject to being a victim, and that it's okay to get rid of the weight because she had a sabotage tendency inside of her that says, I want to be fat. But yet the doctor is saying you have obesity, you have diabetes, and this is dangerous for your health. So mentally, she's saying, I want to get rid of it. But subconsciously, she's saying, I need to be fat in order to be protected. I mean, that's profound. And that's where a lot of people are.
And that's where the brain's going to go. The brain's going to protect anything that's a threat to the system. And I mean, it's just how powerful our emotions are in our mindset to life. I think a lot of people look at trainers and coaches as, oh, they're just going to tell me what to do. But in reality, it's more than that. It's your upbringing, what your experiences are. Yours are different than mine. Mine are different than Matt's. Everyone has different ones, but everything's perceived the same, whether it was a good experience or bad experience. And as people, coaches in life, we need to understand how our emotions affect us and understand and kind of somehow deal with our emotions. Everyone deals with them a little bit differently. And I think that's a big thing, especially coming from your background. Like you've had to deal about things way more than I have. Like I haven't had an experience like that. I couldn't even imagine that. But like to me, I can't compare anything because I don't have that. And I think that's where a lot of people fall short because they're looking for something extreme to happen where it could just be something minute that happened in their life, and that's just ingrained in them.
And it's all relative. It's all relative. Your experiences may have hurt you and devastated you, and they may not have been as severe as someone else's, but your spirit may be very gentle and you can't handle quite as much. And we're all a little bit different. So I can't demean someone else's experience because they didn't go through being shot at when they were a kid. You know, I have a son who was shot 5 times. I mean, I have another son who was shot in the back once, who was almost paralyzed, that when he came out of it, he said, Dad, I want to be like you. And I'm really proud of him. He just got his pro card in bodybuilding 3 months ago. And he's a youth minister now. Yeah, he's a youth minister, just got married, bought his first house. And we put together a program for him it's a max muscle program that we're actually administering because people are looking for different things. Some people are looking for, how can I build the maximum amount of muscle? And that's a great desire, but what's the easiest way to do it? And so I put together 9 principles that I personally use myself. And then people are looking for ultimate definition. How can I get extremely defined and get that 6-pack? So put together a program for that. How can I decrease body fat? How can I increase my health, life, and longevity? So we put together these programs because people have asked me this question. They said, Ron, in Mr. Universe, what can I do? What can I, in winning Mr. Universe so consistently, what did you do that was so consistent that helped you to win Mr. Universe? So my answer at the beginning was, this is the way I ate, this is the way I trained, but that wasn't really what they were asking me. What they were asking me is, first of all, I know that I won the Mr. Universe, but I know who the real Mr. Universe is, and it's not me. I'm glad that he allowed me to carry that title, but the thing is, what they were asking me was this: what do you do in your world that I could do in my world to help me be the best at my game? And what are some principles that you used? So I began to put together some principles. I went back into my toolbox of all the years of competing and all of the training. I was a professor here in Utah for 2 years. I didn't want to be a professor. They actually, I went and did a seminar at a school, and they said, will you come here and teach our students? I said, man, I can't teach these students. I don't have a college degree. They gave me an honorary degree and made me a professor, man. And so I started teaching college. I was like, man, that is quite the sense of humor. But I started teaching diet and nutrition, but I came up with a program to build max muscle. And it was 9 principles I put together. And the reason why I put these principles together, because it was the easiest, simplest, quickest way to reach the goal. One thing I learned, I'm going to say this real quick. HGH is so amazing how we release HGH. Now, we can release HGH through certain amino acids. We can release HGH through proper sleep patterns. We can release HGH, and I want to explain this one, through winning. I mean, that is amazing. We can release HGH through winning. They did a study on boxers. They had like 30 championship fights. They took the testosterone and the human growth hormone levels of the fighters at the very beginning of the fight. They took the level of their hormones. And then they were comparable, pretty equal. After the fight, they took their hormone levels again. They found out that the winner's HGH and testosterone was 20% higher than the person who lost. They checked their hormones as well. And when you look at them, and even their endorphins were different. When you look at the fighters on the fight, you see the person who wins, he looks like this. And the person who loses is like this. You can see the devastation in him, but in the lack of excitement, but you see the very opposite with the other fighter. Well, every time you win, you release an amount of human growth hormone and testosterone. So my goal is, how can I help you win every day? What can we do in your world to help you win every day? This is your nutrition plan. Every time you eat according to this nutrition plan, it's a win. Boom. So I know, and I relate this to a win, so I can release natural growth hormone and a higher level of testosterone for the men when I win. When I take my supplements on a consistent basis the way I'm supposed to, and I can put a check mark by it at the end of the day, that's another win. So I find ways that I can help my client win every single day, 5 or 6 different ways. And that encourages them. It makes them feel successful, and they're moving towards a win. And with that natural growth hormone helps to keep your body fat down, and it helps to keep your muscle mass up. So if you want to build max muscle, this is one of the things that I would have them implement. When it comes to sleep, if you never enter that REM or that delta sleep, your body doesn't have the ability to release that natural growth hormone. So you have to turn the night lights off, because your eyes can see through your eyelids if there's light in the room, and your body never gets into that deep sleep pattern where it releases growth hormone. There's the ornithine, the arginine, and the tryptophan. Those 3 help you release natural growth hormone, taken individually because they cross the blood-brain barrier. You have certain lifts, your heavy squats, you have your heavy deadlifts. Sprinting helps you release natural growth hormone. The 4th one that I have people do is pull-ups, but it doesn't have the same effect. So I've got, these several ways that they can release this natural growth hormone to keep their body growing. And there are other strategies that go along with it. With that Max Muscle program, it is really effective. The people that are using it are finding they're getting the results, especially with the one that is the easiest, just learning how to win. So I asked them this question. I say, what is it something that you can do every day that you can consider a win? As simple as making your bed as soon as you get out of it. So some people get out of their bed, they make their bed. Hey, it's a win. I come home tonight, my bed is already made. So find a way to help them to win on a consistent basis every single day.
I love it. I love it. There you have it, folks. If you're struggling with any goal in life, or finding purpose, or hitting roadblocks, or staying consistent, we've found the right person for you to work with. Ron Williams. So we're running on the hour here, and honestly, this is like one of the best podcasts. I feel like we could keep going for multiple hours, but we'll have to save that for a later date, because there's so many questions I'd love to dive into and talk more about, like, that we didn't really get to even today, like just even addressing, say, people's fear of anything in life, right? Or fear of their own beliefs, right? But so I always like to ask these 2 questions, because it's important for me, I think, to know more about you too. Is I'm a big quote guy, and do you have a favorite quote?
Man, you had to ask that, didn't you?
Yeah. You can share a couple. I know you got a couple, more than just one.
One is, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Now, the next quote is this. This is my own quote, and that is, champions are not born, but they are forged by the fire and the trials of life. No, champions are forged. Yes. The next one would be this, is that there's a difference between being a champion and winning a championship. Championships are what you do, but being a champion is who you are. Championships is on the outside, but being a champion is inside. I can be a champion when I take out the trash. I can be a champion husband. I can be a champion dad. But winning a championship, it's up for grabs next year.
Yeah, no, that speaks a lot to even just your story, right? Like from 7th grade to 28, you were forging yourself in that fire and trials and tribulations of life all the way till you won those championships, those 250 some titles, all those championships. But you are a true champion and legend. And this has been a great podcast, and I really appreciate getting this opportunity. And I would love to come meet you in person and shake your hand and get a good workout session in.
If you come to my house, you got to do two things, man. You got to eat and you got to work out. Those two things.
What are we eating?
You got to let me feed you.
As long I can bring the food, I can cook too. So I'm also like, if I sit at the table, I'm bringing something to it. You know what I mean? So you got to let me either cook or bring the food.
Okay, one or the other. Okay. That's fair.
And then last question is, what's your favorite thing to do in your spare time?
My favorite thing, this might sound a little corny, but my favorite thing to do in my spare time is to spend time with my wife, man. I mean, she is my best friend. She's the funnest person in the world. All we do is laugh. Yeah, she's so wonderful.
That's beautiful.
Love it.
That is great. That is awesome. Well, there you have it, folks. Ron Williams, the man, the myth, the legend. And I highly recommend checking out his content. We'll leave links in our show notes for everybody to see his YouTube channel and his website, and you can learn more about him. Again, thanks again, Ron. Really appreciate having you on the show.
Awesome. You guys are awesome, man. Thanks. And I appreciate what you guys are doing. It's awesome.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you for all you do and continue to do and spreading word and mindset and motivation. That's why we're here.
Impacting so many lives on there on such a grander scale. And, you're like at the top of the mountain, and we hear about you and we know all the impact you're doing. And we're like still kind of walking through the bushes, trying to find our way to the top of the mountain so we can maximize our impact.
You know what? That's my job, to pull you up and then push you ahead of me. So give me that opportunity and watch what I do.
Please do. Please do. You'll be hearing from me, Ron. All right. Thanks again. Much love. Man. Take care.
If you're ready to make steps towards improving your health or increasing your performance, book a free 30-minute call today by visiting thinkfitnesslife.com.